Hey everyone, I hope you're doing all right today. So, I wanted to give you an update on Trump's $2,000 checks because the talk around it has grown even bigger and a lot of people are still confused or getting their hopes up without seeing the full picture. President Donald Trump has brought this idea back again, calling it a tariff dividend, and it's picking up attention in a way that feels familiar but also a little different this time. You might have seen pieces of it online or heard something from friends, but there's a lot happening underneath the headline that affects your wallet in ways most people haven't explained clearly. So, yeah, let's go through this together so you really understand what's happening and what's not. Before we get any further, let me know in the comments how you're feeling about the economy right now. Do you feel things are getting easier, harder, or pretty much staying the same for you? So, let's start with the big headline. President Trump has revived this idea of giving Americans a $2,000 check funded entirely by tariff money. He's described it as a dividend, basically saying that because tariffs bring in billions of dollars, that money should be returned to middle and lower income Americans. And he's repeated this multiple times, both in interviews and on social media. So the idea isn't just a random one-off comment. It's something that the White House has actually said they're looking into. But here's the thing a lot of people don't know. Even though tariffs do bring in money, and the Treasury has reported that customs duties pulled in around $195 billion in 2025, that doesn't automatically mean there's enough revenue for checks of this size. And more importantly, even if the money did add up, the president can't legally send checks out on his own. Congress has to approve it. So right away you can see there are a few layers here that people don't really hear about when all they see is a headline like $2,000 checks are coming. Now, something that's got people paying attention is the timing. Trump has said the checks wouldn't go out this year, that it would be sometime next year. And if you've been following politics for a long time, you might notice the pattern here. Next year is the lead up to the 2026 midterms. Promises like this tend to get a lot of traction right before election seasons because, well, people are struggling. Prices are high, rent is high, food is high, insurance is high, gas is still bouncing around. A lot of Americans hear $2,000 and think, wow, that would actually help me catch up or breathe a bit. But also, I want to walk you through something really important that most people don't realize. When economists have looked at the numbers, they say the math doesn't quite support the plan as it's being described. And let me explain this in plain language because you deserve clarity, not jargon. If the government sent everyone $2,000, including kids, that would cost around $600 billion. If they only sent it to middle and lower income Americans, the cost would still be around $400 to $500 billion. Tariffs bring in less than that. Even in a strong year, they're around $200 to $300 billion. So there's this gap, and whenever there's a gap, Congress gets involved and arguments start and the whole process slows down. So then people ask, well, okay, can you borrow the difference? And the answer is maybe. But that raises a whole new set of problems because borrowing more money during a time when inflation is still a concern can push prices up even more. And that's not me saying it. That's analysts and economists who have studied what happened with the pandemic stimulus checks. One Federal Reserve study estimated that those checks added about 2.6 percentage points to inflation. Not the whole thing, but a meaningful chunk. And also something I think is worth mentioning because viewers bring this up a lot. Tariffs themselves already increase everyday prices. A Yale study found that current tariffs are costing American households around $1,800 a year. So the same policy that raises prices is also the one being used to justify sending checks. It's kind of like taking $20 out of someone's wallet, handing them 10 back and saying you gave them a gift. And I'm not saying that to be harsh. I'm saying that because that's how a lot of people describe it in their own words. Now, I want to touch on the legal part because this also gets overlooked. Even though the president can set tariffs, he cannot spend money without Congress. The Constitution is really clear about that. And the Treasury Secretary himself has already confirmed that legislation would be needed. So no matter how many times Trump says he wants this to happen, it can't happen unless Congress agrees. And right now, no bill has even passed the committee. There was one bill from Senator Josh Hawley called the American Worker Rebate Act, which would have used tariffs to fund rebate checks, but it's stuck in the Senate Finance Committee. And also there's this huge Supreme Court case happening right now about whether Trump's tariffs are even legal in the first place. And this is a big deal. The administration has been arguing the tariffs are regulatory, meaning they're not really about raising revenue. But the problem is Trump's saying he wants to use the tariff money as revenue for checks. Those two positions don't match. If the court decides the tariffs were mostly about money, then the government might have to refund a lot of those tariffs to businesses. And if that happens, the money for checks disappears completely. So that's another loop that not many people talk about. There's a plan for checks, but the very thing that funds them might get pulled off the table by the courts, and no one knows when that decision is coming. Another thing to consider is inflation. And yeah, I know people are tired of hearing that word, but it matters. If you remember the pandemic checks, you probably know the excitement when the payments hit your account. But you also probably remember how quickly everything got more expensive. Groceries went up, rent up, cars went up. And this isn't just theory. The St. Louis Fed published research on it, and analysts today are saying the same thing again, that $2,000 checks in this economic climate could push prices up at the worst possible time. Now, what's interesting is that the White House hasn't backed away from the idea completely. Trump and his team keep saying the president wants it to happen, and they're studying the numbers. And both of them are being talked about right before a crucial election year. And speaking of politics, there's clearly an element of strategy here. These checks would be extremely popular with many voters. They'd make headlines. They'd show up in campaign ads. And honestly, they make a lot of people feel seen. There's no denying that. When people feel ignored or financially stretched thin, a big promise like this hits differently. It feels like someone is noticing your struggle. Even if the math is messy, the emotional side of it is powerful. So then the question becomes, is this a real policy or is this more of a political message? And right now, if we're being calm and fair, it looks more like a message. There's no bill, no timeline, no funding source that actually covers the full cost, and no legal path without Congress. That doesn't mean it's impossible, but it does mean it's not close. And here's the part that might surprise you. Some analysts believe the idea could resurface closer to the midterms if consumer spending weakens or if economic anxiety rises. Tariffs, checks, rebates, these things tend to make a comeback when the public mood is fragile. And right now, a lot of households are feeling that fragility. So yeah, where does this leave you? It leaves you informed. You now know the headline, the numbers, the legal hurdles, and the real world impact. And that's more than what most people online ever get. My goal isn't to tell you what to think. It's to help you understand what's real, what's likely, and what deserves a second look. And if you ever feel confused or frustrated by these announcements, you're not alone. A lot of people in the comments talk about struggling with rent, food prices, medical bills, and just trying to keep up. Relief isn't a silly thing to hope for. It's human, but it's also important to know what's real so you can plan your own life with clarity. So then, now that we've talked through all of this, let me know in the comments if the government ever sent checks again, what would actually help you the most? More money for groceries, some help with rent, lower medical bills. This question is open for everyone, no matter your situation. And if you found this helpful, I'd really appreciate you subscribing. It helps the channel reach more people who are looking for straight answers. And yeah, thanks for being here today. I always appreciate spending this time with you. President Donald Trump has pledged to send out $2,000 rebate checks to millions of Americans in 2026. The direct payments are expected to come from the revenue of global reciprocal tariffs introduced earlier this spring. Talks of the rebate checks have been going on since Trump teased the idea in July, saying there could be a little rebate, but the big thing we want to do is pay down debt. Through a post on Truth Social earlier this month, Trump again claimed that a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. People that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world with almost no inflation and a record stock market price. 401ks are highest ever. We are taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt, $37 trillion. Record investment in the USA, plants and factories going up all over the place. Trump wrote in November. The president has now again addressed the proposed rebate checks in a statement during an Oval Office event this week. We're going to be issuing dividends later on, somewhere prior to, in the middle of next year, a little bit later than that, he said, thousands of dollars for individuals of moderate income. Given this, checks would be expected sometime before the 2026 midterms, but nothing is concrete. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent also stated that the proposed tariff dividend checks would be worth around $2,000, but emphasized that the idea was still in discussion, per ABC News. Bessent added that the payments could come in lots of forms, similar to the tax decreases that we are seeing, in reference to the tax cuts seen in the One Big Beautiful Bill, OBBB Act, signed into law this summer. It could be just the tax decreases that we are seeing on the president's agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans, he said. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has also said that the administration was exploring all legal options to get the $2,000 rebate checks sent out to middle to low-income Americans. A rough annual income cap was noted by Bessent to be around $100,000, with the checks being exclusively for working families, per an interview with Fox News Sunday Morning Futures. Additionally, the proposal would still need congressional approval, and several Republican lawmakers have been wary of it, encouraging Trump to decrease the federal budget deficit first. Trump considered it for taxpayers in February via the savings that would come from the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, though no payments came. The idea was offered by James Fishback, CEO of investment firm Azoria. Fishback stated his case on X, requesting that Elon Musk help work to distribute checks worth $5,000 based on the DOGE savings. Again, stimulus payments are issued via the tax code, meaning that Congress would need to pass new laws that give the Treasury Department permission to send out funds to Americans. Tariff boom. Around $220 billion has been collected in tariff revenue so far. In September alone, $31.30 billion was brought in, according to data from the U.S. Department of the Treasury. August was the highest at $31.40 billion for the month. The Yale Budget Lab estimates that all tariffs to date this year will raise around $250 trillion if they continue through 2035. To hand out $2,000 checks to about 150 million Americans making less than $100,000 annually, that would require about $300 billion in revenue, according to an ex-post from Erica York, Vice President of Federal Tax Policy at the Tax Foundation. Americans should remain aware of other recent payment changes. Travelers are also expected to lose about $775 in flight delay cash after the Trump administration scrapped a Biden-era refund plan. Additionally, retirees have been urged to double-check their contribution limits after a boost from the IRS. Form up last chance for Americans to get up to 5 kailaos from $5 health data breach payout. Submit online form by November 25th. Eligible Americans have the chance to get up to $5,000 from a huge $515 million health data breach payout, but have just days left to apply. Boston Children's Health physicians agreed to the multi-million-dollar settlement to resolve claims it failed to prevent a 2024 cyber attack. The settlement will benefit anyone who was directly or indirectly notified by BCHP that their private data may have been compromised in September 2024. The breach is believed to have affected around 918,000 patients and employees. Plaintiffs in the class action lawsuit claimed BCHP could have stopped the breach if it had taken reasonable cybersecurity measures. BCHP has not admitted any wrongdoing, but the company agreed to the settlement to resolve the case. The Pediatric Primary and Specialty Care Group has 300 clinicians operating across New York and Connecticut. Under the terms of the settlement, class members can claim a slice of the huge cash payment. Class members are also eligible for 2 years of free medical data monitoring. Those who choose documented loss payments can claim up to $5,000 for losses related to the data breach. Documented losses may include fraudulent charges, identity theft expenses, credit monitoring costs, and more. Class members who opt for undocumented loss payments will receive around $100. Undocumented loss payments may be adjusted depending on the number of claims submitted. If there are not enough claims to exhaust the settlement fund, undocumented payments may increase to $350. All class members are entitled to 2 years of free SciEx Medical Shield monitoring. This service includes medical identity monitoring, real-time alerts, and up to $1 million in identity theft insurance. The deadline to request exclusion from or object to the settlement is November 10th. The final approval hearing for the BCHP data breach settlement is scheduled for December 10th. But all class members must submit a valid claim form by November 25th if they want to receive any of the settlement benefits. Increase inbound Social Security, set to deliver $5,108 payments in days. January update promises even bigger checks. Around 74 million Americans get funds on a monthly basis from the Social Security Administration, SSA, in 2025. Many depend on this to pay for daily living expenses. A specific schedule is followed by the SSA for sending out payments from all of its programs, so those who get them can budget appropriately. For standard Social Security, distributions are notably made every second, third, and fourth Wednesday of a given month. Those recipients with birth dates between 1 and 10 would have already gotten their money, a maximum of $5,108 for eligible individuals this year on November 12th. This week, recipients with birth dates between 11 and 20 get their payments on November 17th. On November 26th, the day before Thanksgiving, the final payments for Social Security this month will go out to those with birth dates between 21 and 31. Payment considerations. It's important to note that the $5,108 maximum distribution on November 17th is only for those single tax filers who waited until age 70 to claim Social Security benefits, among other criteria. Those who decided to start obtaining payments at full retirement age, which is between 66 and 67 depending on birth year, this drops to $4,018. Additionally, Americans who elected to get benefits as soon as possible at 62 would only get up to $2,831 in monthly payments for 2025. Exact amounts still vary on a case-by-case basis, and the average currently sits at about $2,008 monthly. Except, thanks to the recent cost of living adjustment, COLA, announcement made at the end of October after delays due to the federal government shutdown, checks will be worth more in January. The SSA confirmed that the COLA will be 2.8% to help recipients retain their buying power as prices increase due to inflation. Given the monthly benefits average of $2,008, an increase of that percentage would give the average retired American $56 more per check starting in January 2026. That means about $2,064 would be in the monthly payment instead. Following the same schedule of Social Security benefits from the SSA, the first increased check for retirees with birth dates between 1 and 10 would go out on January 14, 2026. The next round would then arrive on January 21st, and then again on January 28th, first to the cash. Those Americans who qualify for Supplemental Security Income, SSI, benefit from the COLA increase before January, however. More than 7.4 million Americans who have a disability, are blind, or are 65 and older with limited income and resources get SSI every month. Due to a unique calendar quirk that happens a couple of times every year, SSI recipients get their first payments for 2026 on December 31st, 2025. That's because SSI goes out on the first of every month, but the SSA doesn't send payments out on federal holidays or weekends. January for New Year's Day is a federal holiday, so the money comes early. It's still technically a distribution for 2026, though, so the COLA factors in, making the maximum for an individual goes from $967 to $994, almost cracking into four figures. In fact, the December 31st SSI distribution will be the second for the month, as recipients also get the standard one on December 1st. This is beneficial as there is no SSI payment for November 2025, given that it came early in October, with the first of this month falling on a Saturday. Veterans are also getting checks worth $3,938 in January, thanks to the COLA bump. A special Social Security do-over trick can even help Americans get payments worth up to $4,108. Change Up Costco members spot food court checkout change to stop people taking advantage of iconic perk. One shopper posted a photo on Reddit of a register with a membership scanner and card reader. Membership ID scanners coming soon to a Costco food court near you, the shopper titled the post. Spotted these at 88 today. A food court employee confirmed that they are membership ID scanners. The customer captioned the photo. They were recently hooked up but not operational at this time. I wonder if purchases at the food court will count towards cash back for executive members. The post drew attention from over 1,000 Redditors who have mixed emotions about the change. Some shoppers said their stores have had this checkout method for a while now. I live in Orange County, and all 3 Costcos that I frequent have had scanners for a long time now, one user commented. Another mentioned that the food court scanners are a common practice to deter non-members from eating at the food court. It's common in areas where the food stall is outside to keep the non-member locals from taking advantage of it, one user noted. Costco offers its members 3 membership options: Gold, Business, and Executive. Each membership comes with its own perks and ranges in price. However, they all offer access to the food court. One Reddit user said that their store may be the only one without a membership scanner at the food court. Well, if these are about to be standard, our store will be the only one without one. We are close to becoming the only PA store with beer wine, the commenter noted. Because it's a loophole in PA state law, the store will have a restaurant liquor license. So we will have to operate like a restaurant and be open to the public, just the food court and alcohol sales area. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how it works out. They will be able to consume alcohol on the premises in the FC too.